Coach, there will be no NC State women's soccer this fall. How difficult was that team meeting that you had to have with your squad?
It's tough. I mean, anytime you have to break that news, it's not easy. But with everything the world is going through right now, what we've had to endure through the spring and the summer, and even the uncertainty of the fall up to a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't say they were shocked, disappointed, but they're smart kids, good perspective, and I think they knew all along these things now exist until there's a vaccine or ways we can prevent this or reduce it. I think the girls weren't shocked by the news, but disappointment.
They had come back and were able to practice, but you didn't have a full roster. What led to the ultimate decision to not play in the fall?
Well, we had a low number to begin with coming back to fall camp. We had 6 internationals that did not return, just travel restrictions, visa restrictions, uncertainty of the season, and frankly, there wasn't a rush to come to the United States for the obvious reasons. So we had a low number. We had a couple returning injuries that were still returning. We had a couple in training over the last week, and just that culminated in, we had to look out for the health and well-being of the athletes. It just wasn't safe to put that kind of workload on them. And this quick, we're coming off 5 months off, and they weren't prepared to do this with such a small number of players. So we knew it was a possibility along the way. We didn't want it to happen mid-season. That wouldn't be fair to the group. I don't think it would have been fair to the conference either. I think we had to take a good look at where we were before we got started, and unfortunately it was just at a number that personally I had to make a decision and say, this is dangerous. We're not going to do this.
Perspective is a word that you've used quite often in our conversation and also in the statements that you've made since the decision was made. What does this teach a coach, a student athlete, about perspective?
Well, you better have it, because the world is changing almost on a daily basis. And if you don't understand and realize what we're in the middle of and really put into order what's important right now, I think you'll be disappointed a lot. Our girls have learned from what the winter and spring sports went through. They're friends with those athletes. That was a real kick in the stomach abruptly at the start of this. I think they've learned what's possible, and they're applying it. So were they upset? Yeah, but they're happy we get to stay together. They're happy we get to train. They've heard the NCAA is possibly going to have a spring option. We don't know if that will come to fruition. But the fact that we're still together and training, that perspective has made them realize it could be worse. And there are people in the world right now that are going through worse. So I give my girls credit for understanding that.
What are you allowed to do in now what is considered an off season?
It'll just be like our off season is: training, lifting, running. We'll still be able to do that stuff. We'll be able to focus on the individual development we kind of lost in the spring. For me, it's a logical progression. We have 5 months off. Now we have 3.5 months together. We'll take a Christmas break and we'll come back for a spring season. And if that includes something the NCAA gives us, great. If it's a normal spring season, then we'll make the best of that, keep perspective, and be ready for next fall.
It was already determined, and someone asked me this earlier, they do not lose a year of eligibility, correct?
Right. Eligibility, no matter what you do, whether you play 1 game, 51 games, 101 games, you don't lose eligibility this year. So that made it a little easier for the kids to stomach. They weren't losing something that they were never getting back. So that helped a lot. And again, they're happy we're together. And we continue, and we're always going to be a glass half full program. And I love my group. I love how they responded when I told them on Friday, and we were back at it training today, and it was just a great atmosphere.